Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As is introduced, I am the former minister in charge of IT science and technology policy of the Japanese government. Today, it is very delightful for having this next blockchain symposium hosted by RIETI, and thank you very much for inviting me for giving you a greeting. At the time that I stepped in as the minister in charge of IT, I made some remarks, and I'd like to reiterate that. Minister in charge of IT, that title is not sufficient for fulfilling the needs for the future. Digitalization overall will have to be bringing benefits to all of the citizens in Japan and the world. And that holistic policy would have to be required, and for that, some minister would have to be appointed for that holistic IT policy. And I was first elected being a member of the parliament in 2000. In 2001, the basic IT policy was adopted for the first time in the Japanese government. Throughout the history, I've been involved in the IT policies through that. And 6 years ago, we, as a member of parliament, have adopted the security policy for IT, and also public-private policy promotion activity was conducted under my leadership. And the government submitted the digitalization policy, and we were able to adopt such policy. There are a lot of legislation being made, and yet Japan, for some reason, lacks in the speediness of promoting digitalization or IT. And in that situation, what we have to be fully conscious of is that the kinds of efforts that we tried to work was a simple digitization, although we use the terminology of digitalization. What is changing the society at large is digitalization and digital formation. Analog TV broadcasting was replaced by the digital broadcasting, and we simply believe that that is a part of digitalization, but that is not the case. You have to convert the fundamental business process lies in the digitalization, and whether you can capture that opportunity or not will be critical for your success in the digitalization in the future. So now RIETI have hosted the blockchain symposium, and now Facebook have developing the Libra, and they are adhering to the financial inclusion as a concept. And with that entry, I think that overall picture in the world is now evolved to some degree. I hope that the society will be able to embrace and benefit from the digitalization of the society. That is something required for digitalization to happen. And so far, we've adopted the cryptocurrency law, and also we have revised the Financial Instruments and Exchange Act so that we've changed legislation as needed basis, particularly in regard to the revision of the Financial Instruments and Exchange Law Act. Because of that, STO, security token, is going to be implemented in the society. And from that point of view, I have a request and also suggestions to the people who are relevant in this area. I have prepared a new policy, being a minister in charge of IT, science, and technology, which is to create the clusters for the startup ecosystem. That is already being implemented, and in fact, spring next year, we will start taking the open entry of the possible startups for the municipalities participating in this program. Startups are scattered across the nation, Japan as a whole, and therefore we need clusters for that. So STO could be useful for startups, for example, being a seed money or maybe the gap funds. And I believe that STO will be very beneficial for startups. I believe that all the relevant party will start to prepare and design the systems of the startup ecosystem clusters, and I hope that all these STO digitalization be put in place in such initiative. I know that the society will evolve going forward, but Japan will see the situation where over 50% of the population will be occupied by people aged over 65 years old. So it is an extreme level of the aging society, and therefore there will be more problems that is unforeseeable in the past, but we need to overcome such challenges to society by implementing a very proactive policy. That is our mission. And if we're able to realize that to happen, then other countries who will face the similar challenges in the near future would receive great benefits out of the Japanese experiences. So we are very delighted to have fantastic speakers from outside of Japan as well. Then the reformation of Japan should not be conducted by the Japanese people alone. I believe that we need to rely on researchers, experts, and all the kinds of people around the world. Their expertise, their knowledge, wisdom, and their great research outcomes. We need to rely on such fruits of outside of Japan so that we can bring some benefits to Japan. We need to create the society in that way and the era in that way. From that point of view, we need stronger connections with the people outside of Japan, and I hope that all the stakeholders will be able to move on and step forward with their capabilities, and we would like to create the environment for that to happen. When I go back to the Parliament, I am serving as a member of LDP, ruling party's the IT and Technology Revolution Committee, where at the press conference at 2 o'clock this afternoon, we decided that we will formulate a new committee, which is that we will not simply focusing on IT, but also we will promote the whole digitalization. And underneath that main body of committee, we will have a subcommittee like fintech or sharing economy or digital ID, my number system of Japan, and so forth. And like I mentioned in the last press conference, being the minister in charge of IT, we need to fully prepare and try to make a right decisions being a member of a ruling party. I think this symposium is right in the timing of this momentum, and I hope that fruits of this technology would have to be implemented as soon as possible in society, and we at the Parliament will help you to proceed with that. And I hope that your symposium is going to be very fruitful. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you for your kind introduction. I'm Nishiyama of METI. Thank you very much for having me at this symposium on next blockchain creation of new ecosystem for the future industries. Let me say a few words at the outset. I am the Director General of Commerce and Information Policy Bureau, METI, and I'm in charge of data and digital. I am also RIETI's consulting fellow without producing much results, so that is why that title doesn't appear on the screen, I guess. As the chairman Nakajima and Minister HIRAI said, both Japan and the world are in the flux. The society is changing in a major way, and at the root of this change is, different people call it different ways, but a sort of emerging technologies are driving the societal change or societal transformation that we are witnessing, be it AI, quantum computing, and blockchain are just some of the technologies that are at the core of the societal transformation. These are brand new technologies, and institutions in the society is about to change in a significant way. Just to give you an example, as a result of technological developments, you can obtain data on real time, and you can analyze the data to improve the system itself. So that is already what is happening. You may take it as granted, but when we think about it, we will find that the governance frameworks and regulatory frameworks have always assumed that these things cannot be done. Basically, to check the soundness of a system, So far, it has not been possible to obtain data on a real-time basis. Therefore, basically, batch processing on a regular basis, qualified persons will have to check and make a judgment the status quo of the system by checking the system regularly. Safety inspections have been performed by qualified persons on a regular basis to determine whether the system is sound or not. In the case of corporate soundness, basically qualified CPAs, for example, certified public accountants, had to visit a corporation every year to audit before attesting the soundness of the financial situation of a company to be presented before the shareholders. But with the technological advancements, these assumptions may have to be changed. And Society 5.0 is the name that we have for such a future society. Looking back, the transformation of a society. We had a similar debate at the beginning of the 21st century. When electricity was made available everywhere, we saw many automation. We saw progress in automation with universality of electricity. And everything could be computed. Computing resulted in right answers. That was a debate we used to have in the beginning of the 20th century. In 1930, Gödel came up with a theorem of imperfection. His argument was that not everything was computable. And in 1936, this person appears on a UK bill, UK banknote, Turing, discussed whether there can be an omnipotential, almighty computing. So the discussions that we used to have in the 20th century is now evolving in front of our eyes, and that is the debate that we need to base ourselves on, trying to design our future. And one of the major points in the debate back in the 20th century is whether the future will be decentralized society or distributed society. Oscar Langell and Hayek had a famous debate in the 1920s, but the debate that we are witnessing is a repetition to a certain extent of the debate that they used to have in 1920. So different people have different arguments, and these debates lead to the designing of the businesses and designing of the policies for the future that we are going to have. And RIETI, I believe, is the best forum. As Minister Hirai said, this is the best fora that we can think of to have a global discussion on these important issues. And I hope this symposium will serve as the springboard for our future discussions to follow. Thank you very much.
Well, there's a crash between citizens and politics in Hong Kong. There's a crash over Brexit in UK. And there's a conflicts and collusion in Saudi Arabia over the interest of crude oil. And now between US and China, there is a conflict over a trade. Now, the framework called the boundary of a nation state is becoming the root causes of crashes in many aspects in the world. Well, modern society and its system itself, where the humankind have enjoyed its growth, are not well fitted to the current system. And maybe this is a fatigue of the system. Maybe the nation state is not compatible with the future, with the internet or blockchain, where these are the prevalent around the world. Maybe haven't you think that way in the past at all? As you know, the Bitcoin, the very origin of a blockchain, is considered to be currency. However, there's no concept as a nation state. All around the world, everyone, anywhere you can connect and exchange the value freely in the world. And the nation state is still bound by the land, which is a physical object. And that is the very reason of a nation state to exist. And can nation state in such a definition can survive in the future of a human being kind? And today's event is titled Next Blockchain, so which means that we need to think about the next blockchain, which means that it's not just the next industry, but also the next nation state as well. I believe that we will discuss such a evolution as well. We need to create new values beyond the boundary of nation state, and it's not for the interest of the nation. However, it is the interest of humankind that blockchain has to think about. And when implementation is proceeded in that way, the true value of blockchain will be brought about in the society. Now, our organization, Blockchain Collaborative Consortium, BCCC for short, have established about 3.5 years ago, and we are giving an outlook for the future of blockchain and conducting a lot of activities. We have the largest blockchain organization, hosting about 260 members in our organization. And we have 9 subcommittees such as finance, PR, education, application of technology, game, risk management, smart city, traceability, and token economy. And with that subcommittees, we are solidifying the particular concrete implementation and pragmatic solution to any technological solutions. And we are trying to solidify the foundation, but also we are projecting the future of the blockchain. But let's ask the current status. Some people may presume that blockchain is equal to the cryptocurrency, and maybe a lot of people are value the value of a blockchain. It was in the middle of 1990s where the first commercialized internet was launched, and perhaps you remember, some of you must remember that when you look at the internet, we all complained it is too slow, this is not high functional enough, and security is very fragile, and people didn't quite believe in internet. And since then, internet has evolved one after another, and the next stage of internet, next generation of internet, actually became something that is indispensable for all humankind and changed the businesses around the world. You should not assess the blockchain as is. That is a great mistake that you could make, because there is many next for blockchain as you experienced in internet. So the title for today's event, Next Blockchain, that is a very big topic to cover. And from such topics, I believe that you will have a lot of discussion, and there will be implementation of technology more, and you will explore the desirable ways of building societies. Now, I would like to pay a great respect to all of the stakeholders involved in RIETI and others who make this event happen and try to address this big topic. And the current situation, such as the blockchain means cryptocurrency, or maybe a cryptocurrency should be supervised by financial services agencies and so forth. Such vested concept should not be removed, and we need to find more potential broadly for the overall blockchain. And METI, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, is paying a great attention and try to explore more potential and possibility for blockchain. I am expecting a great deal out of METI. I hope that today's event will give some idea regarding the next blockchain. And with this hope, I'd like to conclude my remarks. On behalf of BCCC, Yoichiro HIRANO, and thank you very much for your kind attention.